This is better than a 401k. In this episode, I'm going to address 401k changes proposed by Biden. Learn what's better. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've helped many thousands of people over the last 4.5 decades prepare for a comfortable retirement and not outlive their money. I've always been concerned because so many Americans, I think, are duped into putting their hard-earned money into tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks. The premise years ago was, you'll get a tax break on the seed money, just like if you were a farmer and you bought seed in the springtime and you plant and you cultivate. In the fall of life, you're going to harvest your crop. Well, with a traditional IRA or 401k, you're getting a tax break on the seed when you buy it. But later on, when you sell your harvest in the fall, now you agree to pay tax on what you sell your harvest for. Hello? If I were that farmer, I'd rather just pay tax on the seed and enjoy the harvest without tax. So the traditional way would be an IRA or 401k. And what was the premise? You'll be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. That has not been true or axiomatic for more than 25 years now. If you have any type of a respectable retirement nest egg, most Americans find themselves in a higher tax bracket when they retire as they were ever in when they were earning the money. Even school teachers. Why? Because you're killing your tax deductions as you've been going. Later on in retirement, you paid off your house. You don't have that deduction anymore. The children are gone, or if they've moved back home as adults, you can't deduct them anymore. You're not contributing money to IRAs and 401ks. You don't have that deduction anymore. If you're a business owner, you don't have those deductions anymore, and Congress keeps raising taxes. I can prove to you mathematically a traditional IRA or 401k is not a good way to go. It used to be maybe okay, but I have a little ditty that goes good, better, best. Never let it rest till good gets better and better gets best. I can show you that if you think taxes are going to be higher in the future, that a Roth IRA or 401k would be a better choice. Just pay tax on the seed money and enjoy the harvest without the tax. But I've never owned an IRA or 401k. I never will. I've never owned a Roth IRA or 401k. I never will. I'm going to show you why. Roths only have 2 benefits. My favorite vehicle, which I call the laser fund, has 6 benefits. And I'll show you the difference. Why would I own a Roth when I can have the 2 benefits of a Roth and 4 additional benefits that the Roths will never have? But let's go back to this whole premise. When people put money into these vehicles, they think that that's the best way to go and they just follow the herd. And then they have this wake-up call if they have saved very much because they're not in a lower bracket. And if you can't see the writing on the wall, taxes are going through the roof. So with all of these tax increases, what would be far better? Let's go through this, and especially based upon market volatility, because of what the current Biden administration is proposing. Mark my word, we're going to see a recession. We're going to see market volatility, and it's like the Great Recession that was from 1999. This is starting in November of 1999. I'm going to go 12 years out to the year 2012. Most Americans who have their money in IRAs and 401ks in the market, and they saved until they had $1 million. At the turn of the century, what happened? They saw that $1 million nest egg dwindle in value by 30 and 40 and 50%. They felt like they had lost their future. Bam, bam, bam. It took 4 years until 2007 to make back what they lost. They had to put off retirement 7 years. Now, none of our clients lost a dime. They may not have made very much when it was going down, but they started making money again as soon as it turned around. They were clear up here. And again in 2008, as Warren Buffett put it, he said, when the tide went out, it revealed who was swimming naked, is what he said. People were not protected with their money in the market in IRAs and 401ks. They lost 40% again. It took 4 years until 2012 to finally come back and have $1,046,800 to show for the million they started with. People using my favorite vehicle, called the laser fund, they ended up with like $2.5 million at the end of that time period, tax-free. When the market went down, they didn't lose a dime. When the market turned around, they started making money again. They ended up with $2.5 million instead of just getting back to break even. That's called indexing. So this is where I propose people have their money in a max funded, indexed universal life insurance contract. And I link my returns to an index where I don't lose if the market goes down because my money's not at risk in the market. When the market comes up, I make money. So I recommend to many people they do a strategic rollout. Get the money out of those IRAs or 401ks because your current tax bracket is likely the lowest bracket you will ever be in. So what's a strategic rollout? It's not a rollover. A rollover is like going from the frying pan into the fire as far as I'm concerned. Before I share what a rollout is, if this is intriguing you, I would recommend that you click like, share this video with others that you know would benefit, and post a comment. But most importantly, subscribe. Click that little bell. You'll be notified every time I post an in-depth answer to a financial question like this on this three-dimensional wealth channel, because I'm passionate about educating people like you. And stay with me to the end, and I'll gift you a copy of my most recent 300-page best-selling book called The Laser Fund. So a strategic rollout means we're getting our money out of those IRAs or 401ks and the taxes over and done with sooner than later. This is not a rollover. A rollover would be like taking money in 401ks and rolling it over to an IRA and continuing to postpone, procrastinate. Maybe if you don't need the money till it used to be 70 and a half, now it's age 72. And then you have to start taking out money or else the government, the IRS, will penalize you 50% on what you should have pulled out, on top of the tax. Did you know that? And so those are called RMDs. Oh, take the required minimum distribution. That's the worst advice I've ever heard. I have software that shows the darkness of the night. If you postpone till you're age 72 and you take RMDs, the rest of your life expectancies between you and your spouse, you will be shocked the amount of tax you will pay by stringing it out. The government wants you to do that. They want to have a permanent tax lien on what you will ever earn on that account as long as you live. Figure it out, folks. You want to do a rollout. Now, people hear this and they say, well, what about just rolling over to a Roth? Because then you pay the tax and now it's tax-free from now on. It's a step in the right direction. That's better, but it's not the best. Here's why. Roths only have two benefits. Number one, your money accumulates tax-free in a Roth, but it does in a laser fund too. You can withdraw your money income tax-free out of a Roth. You can do that in a laser fund. In fact, you've had those two benefits in a laser fund, which is a maximum funded indexed universal life insurance contract, for over 107 years. Roths have only been around since 1997. What are the four additional benefits of a laser fund? With your contributions, you can deposit larger sums, and you can make up for years you didn't put in the maximum. You can put in $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. If you're a business owner, you can design a laser fund to accommodate $300,000. We have people putting in $1 million a year. You can't do that with a Roth. In fact, if you make too much money, you can't even qualify for a Roth. This is why savvy CPAs and tax attorneys refer to the laser fund as the rich man's Roth. You don't have to be rich to have a laser fund. You can set one up for $500 a month. But rich people don't qualify to have a Roth, so they call the laser fund the rich man's Roth. Because your money accumulates tax-free, you can access it tax-free, but you can put in $300,000 if you want. If you don't, you put in $30,000, you have $270,000 of room you didn't use. You can put that $270,000 in anytime you want. A year, 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. You can't do that with a Roth. If you don't use the room in a given year, you lose it. But I love this benefit. If you need to access money out of the laser fund for any reason at all, you can. There's no IRS penalties. If you touch the money you put in a Roth in the first 5 years or before age 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty. I've had people put $300,000 into the laser fund and 30 days later pull out $250,000 tax-free. There's no penalty. See, I want flexibility. You can't do that with a Roth. Using indexing strategies, with the laser fund, you use indexing. Simply put, you're able to benefit when the economy is going up, the market is going up. But when the market crashes, you don't lose because your money is not invested in the market. Your returns are linked to the market, but when it goes down, you don't lose. When the market goes up, you benefit. Please look at other episodes on this very channel about indexing because it's very powerful, or you can learn about it in the gift I'm going to give you here in just a moment. So you're protected when the market goes down. The last benefit in a laser fund, when you ultimately die, because none of us are getting out of this life alive, we're going to die someday. Any money that is left in the account when you die blossoms in value, increases in value, and transfers income tax free. I'm just about 70 years old. If I died in an accident, every $1 million I would have in my portfolio of laser funds would instantly blossom to about $2.5 million and transfer income tax free to my wife, my kids, my grandkids, a church, a charity, Boy Scouts, whoever I want to leave it to. There's not a Roth around that'll do that. People go, $1 million blossoms to $2.5 million? How much does that cost? Well, nothing's free, but it doesn't cost me anything. It's coming along for the ride. It's being paid for with a minuscule portion of money that would otherwise go out the window in unnecessary income tax. I'll take as much insurance as I can get if it doesn't cost me anything, okay? We don't object to insurance benefits. We object to paying for them. So let me show you how you can learn about this. But before doing so, let me just make sure I connect the dots. Perhaps by learning about this, you could move like this couple did from having $200,000 of taxable income. This was a couple that came to me, and this has happened numerous times. And they come in at retirement because at retirement planning is something totally different than maybe what you did for retirement. And this has happened to me hundreds of times where people come in and say, we have $40,000 of income coming from Social Security or maybe a teacher's pension or what have you. The other $160,000 is this portfolio with our financial advisor, asset manager in the market, IRAs, 401ks, mutual funds. And so we have $200,000 of annual income. And I go, way to go, way to go. There's one problem though. They go, well, what's that? And I go, it's all showing up on the front of your 1040 tax return. In other words, you're paying $54,000 in 27% tax bracket. You're paying $54,000 in tax on that. You're only netting $146,000 to buy gas and groceries, prescriptions, and golf green fees. Well, they said, is there a better way? I go, yeah. In 5 years, doing a strategic rollout, we were able to transfer out 60% of this, 120,000 of that 160,000 over to a laser fund between the husband and the wife. And so after 5 years, they still had their 200,000 of income. They had 40,000 of guaranteed income and 40,000 coming out of the money they wanted to still play with in the market. But 120,000 was transferred over to a portfolio of laser funds between the husband and wife. And that was tax-free. In fact, they were actually earning more than that, but I wanted to just compare apples to apples. They have the same 200,000 of income. The IRS knows they're getting this, 120, but they know it's tax-free. You can learn why it's tax-free. They only pay 21,000 in tax on these two. They have a net of 178,000 to now buy gas and groceries. If you do the math, if they live, one of them lives another 25 years, I save them over $800,000 in taxes the rest of their life by doing a strategic rollout. I have a chapter in my book that gives several examples and stories of how this works. So here's how you can claim your free copy of my most recent best-selling book. Maybe you can save this much or more, $32,400 a year in taxes. Would that be worth it? Reading a book or studying or watching it, because I have done a video version in a masterclass. So here's how you can claim your free copy. If you simply go to laserfund, L-A-S-E-R, fund.com, click on the link below, and you contribute a nominal amount toward the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost, and I'll pay for the book, and I'll send out a copy to you. And in the Laser Fund, it's actually 2 books in one. The white side is 200 pages, 14 chapters with all the charts and graphs and explanations of how to diversify and create the foundation for a tax-free retirement. If you learn by stories, you flip it over and read this one, 100 pages, 12 chapters, 62 actual client stories. So get empowered. There's options there to listen and learn, watch and learn, but this is your first step towards your brighter future and how you can do something far better than worrying about the changes that President Biden wants to make on 401ks, because there is a better way to accumulate your money totally tax-free.